Just amazing things happening. Now they've got a new bill to allow torture. That article's up at Infowars.com. Headline, Senate considers bill authorizing more torture. And the news is just running around acting like it's a great thing. This is so incredible. What if they have their way? You've talked about solutions and different systems. If they continue, if this group continues, and their drive for absolute domination over everything, you know, there's no room for the nouveau riche, no room for intellectuals, no room for any science. They want a post-industrial world, a neo-feudal model, as you said, the British eugenics model. What is going to happen to our country? What are we going to see in the short and then mid and then long term?
If we don't act now, we're going to find we're in a thermonuclear war. It's going to happen. If we don't act now to get this president out of office. If you don't pull this president out of office, you're going to have a thermonuclear war. Now, if we don't have him out of office, don't worry about anything. You're all going to be dead anyway. The British policy, and they said it, the British royal family, the extended family, the whole blue-blooded crowd, have said repeatedly they are now committed to the immediate objective of reducing the world's population from 7 billion people to 1 or less. That is the policy of the British monarchy. The British monarchy controls all of Europe, from the Atlantic into Central Europe, directly. They control the Euro system, control totally. They control the forces that are being, including our stupid forces themselves, who are working under Obama's direction, under British direction, for a war in the Middle East. And it will be a thermonuclear war, because it will not be limited to Iran, it will not be limited to Syria. It will go to the entirety of Asia. That's what's at stake. Look at the amount of force. Look at the thermonuclear and related capability of the U.S. and augmented forces from Europe and so forth, which are deployed in the Gulf of Iran and in the eastern part of the Mediterranean. That force is there to fight a war. That war is not limited to Syria and to Iran. That is war once it starts, as the Russian deployment shows you. That war, when it starts, will be a thermonuclear war, as the president of Russia, in certain terms, have warned the world in the past 2 days. So the stage is set. The question is, who's going to come on stage? Is the American freedom going to come on stage and throw Obama out? Because if he don't throw Obama out, now when we have the charges for doing so, then we are condemned to this war. So we find the guts to win, or we lose. And, it's not a question of what people think. A decision, when you have to make a command decision as a leader of a nation, or like the American Republic, there are times that comes that you have to make a decision on behalf of the people. Do you want what is happening to our people now? Do you think the majority of the people in this country wants what's happening to them now? Of course they don't. But they don't think they have the authority or the backing for someone to clean the mess up. And we have, in our terms of responsible people, in the Senate, in the houses of Congress, in parties in part, they all, in a sense, more or less will agree on some things. But they hesitate to take on throwing out a president who should be thrown out. If somebody has the guts and the qualifications to throw the bum out of office, I guarantee you will have a complete change in the policy of the American people in practice. And we can win this thing. But we don't have much time.
I agree with you. We don't have much time. And everyone I talk to, not just geopolitically, not just intellectually, in everybody's gut, people are really concerned. And, I go back to MF Global. I mean, they've never taken $3 billion of people's private accounts and just said, we're not even going to investigate, we're keeping the money. And now they're doing that. I mean, there may have been a method to the madness before, but when you talk about an inbred power structure, who a lot of them are just educated idiots, the sky's the limit. I mean, this is like Caligula or Nero. Understanding history, Lyndon LaRouche, and knowing what the breaks are right now, what do you see happening? I mean, you said with your intelligence and Pentagon connections, high-level groups are telling them no, no, no. But is that enough to stop them? Is that a good sign? What are folks there in Virginia and D.C. At the highest levels you talk to? What are they telling you? What are the Europeans you talk to telling you? How does Israel fit into all this?
Oh, Israel's a puppet. That's not really an issue. The issue here is this: what's the United States going to do, and what are other countries going to do? I can guarantee you, if we throw Obama out of office, we're going to have cooperation, full cooperation, from Russia, from China, probably from India, and from other countries. We're going to find that the world is going to have a kind of unity at the moment before Franklin Roosevelt died, when we virtually had won World War II. People are now at a point of anxiety that if somebody puts the solution before a hungry man on a plate, and the hungry man is seeing his children starving, and somebody's going to come with a solution, they're not going to be very fussy about finding out why they're doing what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They're trying to get their country back. And we have most of the people in the United States want their country back. If a few of us in responsible positions of leadership act within the provinces of our Constitution to take an action to throw this president out of office, even if the initiative is made by a relatively few people, if it's made, and made under the proper law, you'll find a rejoicing in the streets throughout much of the United States. And you'll be hiding Obama someplace where nobody can get at him because you're not going to have him killed. And
sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
That'll change everything. But sometimes it takes, leadership does mean something. There's bad leadership, but there are times when the world cries for someone to act on behalf of justice. And
you're just pointing out that even though it's symbolic and he's a puppet of very wicked people, the fact that their puppet falls and they don't go through the regular cycle of a new Republican puppet, that would be seen as a major point to crystallize some real ideas of sanity being brought in. But what about the same forces trying to bring in just another new puppet? I mean, look at Newt Gingrich. Look at all these people.
I know, but let's take a look at D-Day. Look at the streets in New York City on D-Day, when we'd won the war. And if unfortunately we got Truman in instead of Roosevelt later, if Roosevelt had continued as president, we'd never have any of these problems. Sometimes our chief executive, or the circles which are our chief executive collectively, of our Constitution, when the people in our country do know something about our Constitution, they have some sense of it. But they may not know all the details, but they do know right from wrong in that sense. What's needed now is leadership in the United States which will remove this president from office immediately. That will put into play immediately in the Congress, especially in the Senate, and some of the key people in the House of Representatives, will put them into motion immediately to change a great number of things suddenly. That doesn't mean everything is going to be solved, but it means we're going in a completely different direction, and we're going away from thermonuclear war. And that is what we have to do now. There are no preconditions required for doing that.
Lyndon LaRouche, give us some of the websites. There's LaRouchePAC.com. There's also LaRouche Pub, correct?
Yeah, LaRouche Pub is a publication of our
organization. I know you've got a lot of websites. I wanted to, we're out of time, and I don't want to twist your arm into any more time, but if we can, I want to go to break and do just 5 more minutes on the other side, because I want to ask you from your deep, deep study, and I read, the intelligence briefing and the rest of it, just invaluable information. But I want to understand the deep mindset of the oligarchy and what they think they're going to get out of this, because obviously it's leading them like Hitler into Russia or others on ill-fated journeys, and they're not going to make it out of this. They may succeed in wrecking everything, but there's got to be a point when this ends. Lyndon LaRouche, just give us 5 more minutes on the other side, and then we'll get into financial news and phone calls and a lot more. We'll be right back. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. Infowars.com.
To be
All right, my friends, it's our final segment with Lyndon LaRouche. He's been very gracious to spend this much time with us, very busy man. LaRouchePack.com. And his analysis is spot on. You cannot deny we're at this point. Because the world is imploding, these globalists always start wars. And it is the British Empire model we face. So in closing, so that we know the enemy, not the English or British people or the UK, but that parasitic system there that through all of Europe's wars developed the most cunning, manipulative system ever seen. Who are they? What are they? What do they stand for? How do they see a way out in this?
Well, we don't know some of the history, but we do know that way back in the Mediterranean vicinity, there was a development of what we called oligarchical systems, in which a few people, a small part of the population, were called gods. They were treated as gods. And the ordinary people were treated as cattle. Now, that system of gods and cattle has continued in European civilization in particular, from that time to the present day in Great Britain. The British Empire is nothing but a revival of, for the fourth time, of a Roman Empire, which was started in Rome, which has featured such creatures as the Emperor Nero, and our current President of the United States has a personality identical psychologically or pathologically to the Emperor Nero. But we in the United States succeeded in establishing a system which was anti-oligarchical, in which the right of the individual citizen, as a citizen, was that of a human being, which had a right not only to live, but a right to pass on the meaning of their life to coming generations. And this was our special achievement in the United States by the people who left England, left Belgium, and so forth, left Europe, and came to this territory to build up this United States. Now, we were weak relative to the British Empire, because the British Empire does control the world. All of Africa is controlled by the British Empire. There's no exception to that. Most of the world is controlled by the British Empire. There's no exception to that. You have people within the system who are part of the imperial territory who will resist inside the territory, but they won't break it. We in the United States, with all our failures, our failed presidents, our goofing up the issue and so forth, we have remained in the tradition of what the American system is, which was actually founded in Europe by other people, but was achieved in what became the United States. And therefore, we have a special responsibility, and we are also respected. For example, in Asia, we tend to get respect because we're opponents of this kind of oligarchical system.
We've always been the great engine of at least the lofty ideals. Didn't mean we ever properly lived up to it. And to see America now used as an engine of corruption, and to see other countries use us as an excuse to engage in tyranny, that's got to please the finance oligarchs.
Yeah, but the point is, what does it hurt? It hurts every parent who has children. Because the secret of the United States does not lie in those of us who are living or who have lived. The secret of our United States lies in the heritage of creativity and related benefits, which we pass on to future. We may die, but we live in what we contribute to the future. That's the difference of our system and the typical British or oligarchical system.
That's right. Their birthright is only to the oligarchy. This is a birthright of free humanity, goodwill.
We're going to find we're in a thermonuclear war. It's going to happen if we don't act now to get this president out of office. If you don't pull this president out of office, you're going to have a thermonuclear war. Now, if we don't have him out of office, don't worry about anything. You're all going to be dead anyway. The British policy, and they said it, the British royal family.
Just amazing things happening. Now they've got a new bill to allow torture. That article's up at Infowars.com. Headline, Senate considers bill authorizing more torture. And the news is just running around acting like it's a great thing. This is so incredible. What if they have their way? You've talked about solutions and different systems. If they continue, if this group continues.
Extended family, the whole blue-blooded crowd, have said repeatedly they are now committed to the immediate objective of reducing the world's population from 7 billion people to 1 or less. That is the policy of the British monarchy. The British monarchy controls all of Europe from the Atlantic.
And their drive for absolute domination over everything. You know, no room for the nouveau riche, no room for intellectuals, no room for any science. They want a post-industrial world, a neo-feudal model, as you've said, the British eugenics model. What is going to happen to our country? What are we going to see in the short and then mid and then long term?
If we don't act now into Central Europe, directly, they control the Euro system, totally. They control the forces that are being, including our stupid forces themselves, who are working under Obama's direction, under British direction, for a war in the Middle East. And it will be a thermonuclear war, because it will not be limited to